Hi, everybody, and welcome to Yoga for Everybody. So, my intention today is a little bit of movement at the end of the day, as you can tell from my dark windows. So, I want to bring us into our bodies after a busy day. Maybe you spent the day working or caring for yourself or other people. So, for the next 45 minutes, I want to commit to this time just for you. And so, I would love to start standing. I'm going to get this chair out of the way. For those of you who have practiced with me before, my room is slowly but surely undergoing a bit of a makeover. So I'm really excited about that. Ooh, but the lighting makes me look like I have no pants. I assure you I do. All right, so we're going to come to stand on the mat and just kind of rock your hips a little side to side, maybe shake out the shoulders a little bit. Try to find a place where you feel strong and stable. So shift to the front of your feet, shift into your heels, shift a little to the side and the other side, and feel yourself rooted. I like to visualize the base of my pelvis or my pelvic floor is right in between my two arches. My spine kind of floating on top of that. So the roof of my mouth floats on top of the pelvic floor, top of my skull on top of that. And then take a big reach as you inhale. Maybe interlace the fingers if you'd like. Press up towards the ceiling and simultaneously down towards the floor. Try to do so without arching your back. So if your arms, even if they're wide out to the side, that's fine. Reaching up as you inhale. Keep that reach, but visualize grounding down through your feet as you exhale. And again, up as you inhale. This time as you exhale, bringing one arm down, take a little side bend as you exhale. Inhale, reaching both arms back up to the ceiling. If you're feeling any pinching in your low back, just keep your tail a little tucked, maybe your knees slightly bent. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. So send your hips to the side, root your feet firmly down, into the side of the body. Inhale, big stretch. I'm gonna do this side facing so you can see, exhale, how my spine doesn't change shape. So as I inhale to center, it's not a big reach and crane and cramp into the back. And as same thing as I come to the side, it's almost as though I'm on an imaginary wall. So once you've done what feels like the same amount-ish on both sides, we can come back to center, take the legs a little wider apart, nice soft knees, and right from the back of your head, we're gonna roll down. So it's gonna kind of squish my mic, but bear with me. So we'll tuck the chin to chest. And then let the roll move through the shoulders, soften the knees, let the roll move through the upper back, middle back, lower back, all the way down to fold. And then rooting through those feet, come back up from the bottom vertebra first, standing up, lining back up, stacking back up. Really arching out the mid back before coming up to a high stand. And maybe just do that one more time. You can go as slow or as fast as you want, but you're going to try and keep a consistency in your speed as you go down, vertebra by vertebra. Hang if you'd like, soften your knees and really think of sending your seat high to the sky here. And then grounding through the seat, we'll roll back up, vertebrae by vertebrae, to come all the way back to standing. And the last thing is shoulders rolling back and down. Now, you could do this against a wall or just standing in the room, but I want you to visualize that same idea, only we're going to go side to side. So maybe crossing the arms or maybe the hands to the waist, starting right from the neck, going to the side. I'm going to cross my arms, side into my upper chest. So I'm still on this imaginary wall. So I'm not going to bring my shoulders forward And then when you come up from the lower vertebra first. It's so tempting to lift up from the top of the head. So I'm challenging you to do kind of the reverse. I'm going to do the other side, and I'll face sideways so you can see once again. And then the other way, neck, heart, upper ribs, mid ribs, lower ribs, and then root through your standing leg and find alignment back in the lower ribs, mid ribs, upper ribs, heart, chest, and lastly, neck and head. And then circle the hips a little bit. So we're going to start off almost like you're drawing a big circle underneath you. Hips move forward, to the right, back, to the side. A couple of times, really soften the knees and get into the fronts of those hips, and then reverse the direction. Breaking up any adhesions that might have formed throughout the day or throughout the week from sitting. Making those circles as big as you comfortably can. And then we're going to just change the shape. So now we're doing figure eight. So you're going out to a corner, swooping back to a corner, out to a corner, swooping back to a corner. So imagine two half circles, out to the corner, swooping back to the corner, out to the opposite corner, swooping back. And then see if you can change directions. The arms might help, but you're trying to really find all of the angles in your hip joints, right? Where the hips plug in, or the legs rather, plug into the hip sockets. And then come back to your strong and stable mountain pose. Mountain pose, sometimes people almost skip over it in their practice or in their intention or attention because it seems like the linking pose from one thing to another. So I really want you to land here and imagine as though we were going to stay here for the rest of the class. We're not going to do that, but imagine we were. How could you keep learning from this pose? Maybe bring your hands to your rib cage and let your hands, or rather let your breath fill underneath your hands as you inhale and exhale. Maybe even bringing your breath into the back of your body. So sometimes I'll flip my hands over so that I'm sort of wrapping the palms around the back. I like this idea of like an umbrella breath. So if you had it inside of you, like as though your spine or the center of your body was the rod of an umbrella. And as you inhaled, the umbrella opens up all the way around you. And then as you exhale, it comes back together. I really love that visualization. Sometimes people imagine it as like a jellyfish breath. Both visuals really work for me in trying to encapsulate what happens in our bodies when we breathe in this way. So now for just one more moment in this pose, I'd like you to bring your attention right to the ball of your big toe. So not the big toes themselves, but the rooted part. If you were to lift your toes up off the floor, but keep your feet rooting down, you might feel the ball of your big toe. And then going straight across the foot horizontally, find the ball of your baby toe or the outer edges of your feet. See if you can equally root your weight between these two spaces. And then on each foot, add a third point of contact. So rooting down through the center of the heel and visualizing on both feet this triangle shape. And imagine the triangle like a suction cup where the edges, those 3 points are rooting down and the rest of the foot is lifting up the same way that a suction cup connects to its surface. Umbrella or jellyfish breath. Ground through the tripod of your feet. And when you're ready, take your next inhale, really fill up. And as you exhale and pull that umbrella closer to the center, we're simply going to bend one knee and see if you can lift your foot off the floor. And then inhale, step it back down. Exhale the opposite side. So we'll start off inhaling and exhale. Nothing changes with your standing leg. You're still rooting through that triangle. You're still lifting tall. It just takes on a little more weight. So maybe come to the tip of your toe. You can't see because the dog's in the way. And come back down. Maybe just come to the tip of the toe. Be conscious as you shift your weight that your hips don't slide side to side. We're just going to try maybe lifting and kind of bouncing or hovering as you first get comfortable here. When you inhale, solid step, really grounded, like a tree rooting into the earth. And then exhale, everything pulls into center as the air leaves your body, maybe hovering the foot, maybe bouncing it if you can. We're going to keep marching in this way. And if you do find a point of balance, feel free to stay there and challenge yourself for a breath or two to stay in that balanced shape. If this is feeling relatively stable for you, then you can try moving your leg that's in the air and see if you can still maintain balance. See if you can ignore the licking dog. Every time I lift a foot, she's got to lick it. Ugh. We'll do that for a couple more breaths. What a pup. What a pup you are. Good. And then standing tall, notice the difference in how you feel here in your mountain pose versus how you felt before we did this active balancing movement. We're only going to be here for another couple of breaths. Your arms can be down, your arms could be high, hands to the side, expressing however you'd like. And I want you to imagine for this next movement that your hips or your seat are glued to the wall behind you. So regardless of what we do in the upper body, we're not going to move this way or that way with the lower body. Okay, so that's rooted. With the upper body, I want you to place your left hand onto your ribs and your right hand is going to start just circle. So right arm is going to circle. My elbows locked and I've got this hand just barely touching my shirt. So if I were to turn my body, I can feel the fibers of my shirt sliding underneath this hand and it's telling me that I'm doing too much. I want that whole body to be steady and strong. Just the arm in the shoulder socket is moving. If space doesn't allow for you to take your arm wide, you can do the exact same thing this way. Now reverse the direction. Get as big as you can. Can you reach up towards the ceiling like you're hanging from something? Reach forward and feel the shoulder blades sliding from the socket. Down like you're carrying heavy groceries and then flipping your palm. Really hug the fingertips as close to the spine as you can. And notice as I do that, that neither my chest nor my hips change direction. It's like you have headlights on your hips and headlights on your chest. That sounds funny. And you're facing forward. Now we're going to do the other side. If this is really tricky for you, you can also use a wall to help you find that stability. I can pin my hand to the wall and it makes it a lot harder for me to not notice if my chest or my hips are moving. And the other way. And the purpose here is to really target just that joint itself, to get as much motion as possible right where the arm plugs into the shoulder. Just another couple circles. If you haven't changed direction, go ahead and do so. Oh, baby. After your bath, sweetheart. And then coming back to center now, a little bit of a brain challenge. One arm is going to go back and one arm is going to go forward. Now it doesn't matter if you move your chest or what have you. I just want you to try to move one arm back, one arm forward, and then change direction. So whichever one was going back now goes forward. Woo! Whichever one was going forward now goes back. like that exercise where you tap your head and rub your tummy at the same time. And then come back to center, give that all a little shake. Now, a lot of people complain about neck and shoulder tension. And you'll see in a lot of movement classes, the solution to that is rolling the neck and rolling the neck and rolling the neck. When in fact, the problem that got people into neck and shoulder tension is too much mobility in the neck. We're asking the neck to do too many things. We're asking the neck to do this if we're at a computer screen, to do this when we're looking at our phone, when we're laying in bed on our phone. The neck is overstretching and lacks support. So I'm going to challenge you, if you're somebody who suffers from chronic neck or shoulder pain, upper shoulder pain, try just for this next week to replace stretching your neck with stabilizing. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So really similar to neck circles, but we're going to take the left ear over to the left shoulder. From there, you can take your opposite hand, your right hand, and just barely place it on the head. So we're not pushing the head in any way. Instead, I want you to engage your head and neck like you were going to come back to center and use that hand to resist. And you're going to hold that for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then come back to center. Same thing on the other side. So as far as you can into the stretch, and then hand to head weightlessly, and bring your head like you were going to come back to center and push against that. 4, 7, 6, 5, while you breathe. 3, 2, 1. We'll do that one more time. So all the way over and resist. Make sure you're not dropping your shoulders. So my core is still engaged here. And then I'm going to switch over to the other side. So bring your ear as far as you can. So first move into your full range of motion, then add that. Move the head back, but resist. 4, 3, 2, 1. Then we're going to interlace fingers to the back of the head. Bring your chin to the chest. And same thing, resist lifting the chin back up. So you're pushing with your hands only to the degree that you can push back with your head. Don't forget to breathe. Then take a little break. One more time, chin to chest. Interlace and push. 2, 3, you ought to be feeling all of those muscles on the back of your neck, maybe some in the front of your neck, firing up. Amazing. Lastly, it's a little weird, looking to the sky. Forehead, forehead, and push your head against those hands. 5, 6, 7. Let that relax. One more time, all the way back as far as you can, and then resist, and you're engaging the front of the neck. Really try to bring your head back up. Resist, resist, resist while you breathe. So you're not holding your breath or clenching here, and then let that go. And just see how that feels. And this week, anytime you have the craving to rub your neck or massage your neck or roll your neck, just try replacing it with a little bit of strength. Nothing more than maybe a 6 or a 7 out of 10 in terms of sensation in your neck, and see what happens. So now that we've spent a good majority of time on our feet, let's come down to lying onto our backs. And I'm going to tip my screen a little bit here to help us out. Where's my petite pillow? Here it is. So I suggest giving a few different options a try here. I know I come this shape a lot. I know that I like to have something behind my head, but once in a while I'll experiment without it just to see how it goes. So when you come down onto your back, take your legs nice and long on the mat. Roll around a little bit. Try to find what feels like comfortable to you. And then experiment. Maybe you want to have your knees bent. Maybe you want to have them straight. Maybe it feels good to have something behind your head. Feet can be close to your bum. They can be further from your bum. They could be wide apart or close together. For a moment, really try to send your breath into the back of the body so that you can feel your whole back body expanding against the mat. Maybe you want your arms wide, maybe your hands to the belly. Maybe you're still, or maybe you're moving. For a moment, we're going to heel till the feet closer together so that you feel in your feet the same way we did when we were standing in mountain pose. So you ought to be able to connect to the ball of your big toe, ball of the pinky toe, and the center of the heel in the same way we did when we were standing. It's just less weight because now we're lying down. Your feet don't have to be too close to your seat. Just position in a place where it feels like those 3 points of contact. If you push down a little bit of weight, those 3 points of contact each bear that weight equally. And now we're going to tilt the tail. So you're going to tip your navel closer to your ribs, peel your bum off the floor, and lift just a few vertebrae off the earth. See if you can get as much space as possible in the fronts of your hips, and then lower back down vertebrae by vertebrae. So from the top to the bottom this time, so that when you come down, you're nice and flat. There's no pinching in your low back. Same thing, or you can try extending one leg long, pushing through the heel of that foot. So your heel might be close or further away, and the ball of the other foot. Tip your tail, roll through the spine, lifting up. You're tucking your tail towards your knees, pushing through the heel and pushing through the triangle of your foot. And then vertebrae by vertebrae, coming back down. Switching again to the other side. Let's tilt the tail, roll up vertebrae by vertebrae. And then down vertebrae by vertebrae. If there's any pinching in your low back, try tucking the tail a little more. Maybe get comfortable with just 2 feet for a while till the legs are nice and strong and there doesn't feel like any effort in your back. Now we're going to bring the knees as close together as you can, feet as close together as you can, and take your arms out to the side. Elbows are going to root. Maybe your hands are wide. Maybe they're kind of like robot arms. Keep your shoulders and your upper arms grounded. So if you lifted your shoulders off the ground to come out here, bring your hands back down a little lower. Take an inhale breath, and as you exhale, both knees go to one side only as far as you can without lifting the shoulders on the other side. And then inhale, come back to center. Exhale, other way. Inhale to center. So your elbows are really firmly to the ground. And you're not going to go so far that your shoulder lifts and then push it down. We're really just not going to go as far as, we're not going to go any further than we need to so that the shoulders stay down. There's a subtle but important difference there. If this is feeling relatively easy for you, you could do the same thing with your feet floating off the ground, especially if your thighs are touching to the ground each time. And then we'll come back to center, take a breath or two, notice what you notice, feel what you're feeling. Make sure your feet are spaced apart. So if you were able to back your feet back all the way, just imagine your heels would kick you right in the center of each seat. So we're going to move now where the legs plug into the hip sockets and just butterfly the legs apart and back together. So just like before when we were moving the arm in the shoulder socket, the intention here is that nothing else moves. So only make your butterflies so big that nothing else moves. Your spine doesn't change shape. Legs are moving together at the same time, out and in. There's no creaks or cracks or snaps. You're just going to roll to the edges of your feet. They don't come in together and touch. There's no clenching of your bum or your thighs. Make sure you can still breathe. Maybe 2 more. And then your choice how you'd like to find rest. Maybe as long as there's no sciatica issues, the knees could come together, feet go wide. If that starts to feel too intense for the hip, you can have your legs just sort of floating apart. Maybe legs are straight. Maybe you're moving. We're going to take a few breaths wherever you are. So it's always these moments in between poses that the magic really happens. It's really not about the poses themselves, but it's about how we inhabit the poses. Where is your mind? How fast or slow are your thoughts? Can you continue to spiral your attention back, choosing to eliminate the distractions from your day, from your space? After 1 or 2 more breaths, we're going to roll over to one side and gently come up towards a seated shape. And I'll invite you in your seated shape to just find somewhere comfortable to sit. So that might be sitting in a chair. Maybe you're sitting in like your favorite chair in the house, if it's available. It doesn't have to be a yoga posture sit, just a comfortable place to sit against a wall. Use your props if you'd like. And I'll guide you through a little visualization that I like to do at the end of each day. You might choose to close your eyes, or maybe you have your eyes open. First and foremost, your physical body as comfortable as possible. After that time, focus your attention inwards, all of your senses, almost as though you could hear inside of your own body. You could see the goings on of your mind. Touching yourself on the knees or fingertips to fingertips, maybe your feet. Letting your breath come in and out through the nose with just a soft, easy flow of air. And then scanning through the activities of your day, go back in time in your mind's eye to when you first woke up. What was the first thing you did? Maybe who you spoke to, if what was said, if you know, what you ate. Moving through sequentially through all of the details of your day, how you spent your time, how you spent your energy. What did you take into your body, your mind, your ears, your eyes, your mouth? What did you send out into the world? Who did you speak to? If you can't remember exactly what was said, maybe remembering the spirit of what was said or the emotion that you would attach to the conversation. Were you present or distracted? And as you move sequentially through your day, eventually you'll find yourself sitting right here. And once you get to the place where you find yourself right here, we're going to go back in time. So just before, we're going to go back to the very beginning once again and visualize how you woke up, what you thought, what you did, who you spoke to. So think of all of your senses. Where were your eyes? What came in through your eyes, your ears, your sense of smell or touch. And then imagine that first thing that happened, that first milestone of the day. Imagine physically closing the book or turning the page on that chapter and seeing the next. So the visualization or the connection with turning the page is the recognition that it's in the past, that you can take from it what you want for tomorrow's story when you open up the book again. Whether you would have chosen something different to do with your energy when you first woke up, or you were fully satisfied with what you spent time doing. Letting go of all of that, closing the book or turning the page on it, and leaving it in the past. And then finding the next point that pops into your mind. What did you next do? Who did you speak to? Did your day move as it was intended? Not just thinking of things you would have done differently, but times where you really appreciated connection, times where you really valued another person's energy, times of connection. Turning the page on that event and moving along in your day to the next point. Whatever your mind next goes to. Moving through the day, really fully processing or landing with what occurred, and then choosing to let it go, to separate yourself from that event, to leave it where it belongs back in time. The visualization of closing the book or turning the page, putting it on the shelf. And once you've gone through all of the events of the day, I'll invite you to a pose of rest. So an integration pose for the practice. A pose might be exactly as you are right now, might be something slightly different, but it's a pose that represents ease and comfort, where you can relax muscles and let the tension slide away, where the processing is complete. The doing is done, and for a moment we take a complete different view on our existence. So as opposed to considering in minute detail all of the events of a day and really digging into our memory to find those, You can imagine changing perspectives with yourself. So instead of becoming the person upon which the movie is playing, you'll find yourself sitting, watching it happen. So it's important to try to find a single point of focus to keep your attention here in this moment. Maybe it's your breath. Maybe you have some music playing. Maybe a sensation like if you touch your thumb to another finger. Whatever makes sense to you that keeps yourself grounded in this moment. And just like you would if you were sitting watching a movie you've never seen before, you're watching this moment, this experience, and allowing for it to happen without expectation, without judgment, just sitting with what is. And the moment that you notice yourself sitting, you're on to the next moment. And then the next, and then the next. And the challenge here is to try to stay with that single point of focus, all of those moments, until you get distracted and come back to your point of focus, or until you hear my voice again. So notice yourself breathing here. And then slowly start to create some distance between whatever you chose as that point of focus and your current space. So start to listen to the space, the sounds rather, in the room that you're in. And then stretch your hearing a little further to the sounds of the rooms around you, maybe in the building that you're in or the home that you're in. And then even further, if you can, stretch to hear the sounds outside of that building. Maybe the cars on the street. You can imagine you could hear the buzzing of the street lights, the animals busying themselves for winter. And then pull all of that back to the building that you're in, back to the room that you're in, and back to your breath. Maybe start to move your body however it's craving. You could stretch out a little, kind of waking up, eventually rolling yourself to come to sit. And take some time to gather whatever props is needed to sit comfortably. And take a few breaths just to notice how you're feeling. How fast or how slow your thoughts are. Level of energy. And for a moment, maybe offer yourself a word of gratitude for having made time for this practice. And imagine you could be with and extend that gratitude to the other people who practiced alongside. You're welcome to join me in extending gratitude to the people upon whose land we live and practice today. And gratitude to the ancestry of yoga, our teachers who brought this practice to us. I wish you connection and mindfulness and a sense of presence in the week ahead. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.